All right, so today we're going to take a deep dive into Bitcoin. See if it can really make you rich, like everyone's saying. We got some articles here about MicroStrategy, that they're the company that bet big on Bitcoin. And then there's all this buzz about Bitcoin breaking $100,000. So we'll try to figure out if you can turn $40,000 into $1 million, maybe.
Yeah, MicroStrategy's story is pretty wild. I mean, they basically went from software to just holding a ton of Bitcoin.
It's like they became a Bitcoin bank or something, right?
Pretty much. According to these articles from Motley Fool and Benzinga, they're holding like 2% of all the Bitcoin out there.
Whoa, 2%. That's a seriously risky move, though. What happens if Bitcoin crashes?
That's the million-dollar question. They took on a mountain of debt to buy all that Bitcoin. It's like, imagine you own a bakery. Instead of buying flour and ovens, you bet everything on one ingredient. A really volatile one.
Okay, that's a good analogy. So realistically, can MicroStrategy really turn $40,000 into $1 million again?
Well, to do that in the next 5 years, their stock would have to grow at like 93.5% every year, which is basically impossible. Their market cap would have to be, I don't even know, astronomically huge.
Yeah, so maybe buying MicroStrategy stock and waiting isn't the magic formula. But what about just Bitcoin itself? I mean, it's hitting new highs all the time, right?
Yeah, but it's hard to say if that's sustainable. It's not like a normal company with earnings and stuff. Bitcoin's value is it's all about what people believe it's worth.
So it's all about sentiment. That seems kind of fragile.
Yeah, it can be. Right now, there's a lot of positive news, like Trump winning the election and all the talk about his crypto policies, maybe even appointing a crypto czar.
Crypto czar, that's wild.
Right. And then there's a change in SEC leadership. Yeah. All that stuff can push the price up.
We've even got these articles predicting, like Bitcoin hitting $200,000 by 2025, or even $225,000 by 2026. It's exciting stuff.
Definitely. But remember, those are just predictions. Nobody knows for sure. There are tons of things that could derail Bitcoin, like regulations, governments cracking down, or even a big security breach.
Right. Okay. So not all sunshine and rainbows. But before we jump into all the risks, I want to understand what makes Bitcoin tick. Like, what's the technology behind it? Why are people so convinced it's the future of money?
That's where blockchain comes in, like the foundation of Bitcoin and a whole lot more. Imagine like a digital ledger spread across thousands of computers, and it keeps track of every Bitcoin transaction ever made.
So it's basically like a giant, unchangeable record.
Yeah, exactly. And because it's decentralized, no single person or institution controls it.
That's pretty appealing to a lot of people, right?
Yeah, they see it as a way to break free from traditional financial systems.
Sounds pretty revolutionary. But if blockchain is this powerful technology, why are we so focused on Bitcoin's price? Are we missing the bigger picture?
Well, you're right. Bitcoin is just one application of blockchain. This technology could change everything, from voting to supply chains.
Yeah. So we've got this revolutionary tech with huge potential, but also this volatile asset that everyone's trying to figure out. Where do we go from here? Do we dive deeper into blockchain or unpack the risks and rewards of investing in Bitcoin? What do you think our listener needs to understand right now?
Let's stick with Bitcoin for now. Before anyone even thinks about investing, they need to understand what drives its price and how crazy those swings can be. We talked about turning $40,000 into $1 million, but it's just as easy to lose money in this market.
That's a really good point. Let's get real about the risks before we start dreaming about Lambos and yachts.
Right. Remember, a lot of MicroStrategy's success came from buying Bitcoin when it was cheap. Now they're trying to do it again with billions in borrowed money.
So they're doubling down. That's going to be scary for their investors.
Yeah, it is. And it shows you how volatile Bitcoin is. It's not for the faint of heart. One day you're up thousands. The next day you could lose it all.
So understanding Bitcoin's price movements is crucial. What causes these massive swings?
Well, it's a mix of news, sentiment, speculation, and even technical stuff within the Bitcoin network. Like remember, MicroStrategy's aggressive buying strategy, those big purchases can actually push the price up.
So they're not just riding the wave, they're actually contributing to it.
Exactly. And the opposite is true too. If a big player suddenly sells a lot of Bitcoin, the price can plummet.
So it's like this giant tug of war.
Yeah, good analogy. And remember, this is all happening in a relatively new market with basically no regulations. So that adds another layer of uncertainty and risk.
Yeah. So basically the Wild West of finance. Big players, price swings everywhere, not a lot of rules. It's exciting, but also kind of scary.
That's a pretty good way to put it. And it's important to remember, Bitcoin isn't like investing in a normal stock. There are no earnings reports, no dividends, no tangible assets backing it up. It's all about supply and demand and the psychology of the market.
Okay, so let's talk about those psychological factors. You mentioned news and sentiment play a big role. Can you give me some examples?
Sure. We saw it recently with Trump getting reelected and all the speculation about his crypto policies. Just the mention of a potential crypto czar sent the price soaring.
Right. That crypto czar thing was crazy.
It really was. And it's not just political news. Positive media coverage, celebrity endorsements, even just buzz on social media can drive the price up.
Like a self-fulfilling prophecy almost. People see the price going up, they get FOMO, they jump in, and it pushes the price up even further.
Exactly. And it works the other way too. Negative news, regulations, security breaches, all that can trigger panic selling. And the price goes down.
So it's a roller coaster ride, and then you've got these analysts throwing out these massive price predictions. It's hard to know what to believe.
It is. Those predictions are just educated guesses. Nobody can predict the future, especially in a market as volatile as crypto.
So how do you even approach investing in this kind of environment?
It's definitely not for everyone, but if you're thinking about getting into crypto, do your research, understand the risks, and start small.
Okay, that sounds reasonable. But how do you do your research on Bitcoin? Where do you even begin?
Well, there's a lot of stuff online. But be careful. There's a lot of misinformation and hype out there. Start with reputable sources, like industry publications, financial news websites, educational platforms.
So no trusting random stuff on Reddit or Twitter?
Yeah, pretty much. It's also good to follow the discussions in the crypto community, forums, blogs, podcasts.
So it's about being part of the conversation, not just chasing headlines.
Exactly. And remember, investing in crypto isn't just about buying Bitcoin. There's a whole ecosystem of other cryptocurrencies, tokens, platforms.
Okay, so we talked about risks, psychological factors, the importance of research. But let's get back to the big question. Can Bitcoin actually make you rich?
It's possible, but it's not a guarantee. Like any investment, there's potential for gains and losses. And with Bitcoin, those losses can be pretty big.
Yeah, we know it's volatile. But what about the people who got in early? Like when Bitcoin was just a few dollars, they must be doing pretty well.
Some of them are. But remember, even those early adopters had to hold on through some rough times. Bitcoin has lost over 80% of its value multiple times. It takes a strong stomach to ride out those waves.
So it's not just about getting in early. It's about having the conviction to stay in, even when things get rough.
Exactly. Bitcoin is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's a long-term investment with its own risks and rewards.
All right, so let's say someone has done their research, they understand the risks, and they're ready to invest. What's the best way to do it? Do you just open an account on some crypto exchange and start buying?
There are a few different ways. You can buy Bitcoin directly on an exchange, you can invest in a Bitcoin ETF, or you can even mine Bitcoin yourself. Each option has its pros and cons.
Wait, mining Bitcoin? Isn't that like for tech wizards with warehouses full of computers?
It used to be easier for individuals, but now it's become more of an industrial scale thing.
Okay, so probably not something our listeners are going to do at home. What about those Bitcoin ETFs? Are those good for beginners?
Yeah, ETFs can be a good way to get exposure to Bitcoin without having to deal with the technical stuff, like buying and storing it yourself.
So it's like investing in a basket of Bitcoin instead of buying individual coins.
Exactly. And because ETFs are traded on regular stock exchanges, it's a more familiar environment for investors.
That definitely sounds less intimidating. What about buying Bitcoin directly? What are the advantages there?
It gives you more control. You own the actual coins, and you choose how to store them.
That sounds good, but I'm guessing there's a but coming.
Of course. The downside is you're responsible for securing your Bitcoin. If you lose your private keys or your wallet gets hacked, you could lose everything.
So it's like holding physical gold. You got to keep it safe.
Yeah, exactly. That's why a lot of people choose ETFs or other regulated platforms. They offer more security.
Okay, so we've got three main options. Buy Bitcoin directly, invest in an ETF, or become a tech wizard and mine it yourself. But before anyone makes a decision, there's another big piece of the puzzle, the regulatory landscape.
Oh, yeah, that's right. The world of crypto is still evolving, and governments are trying to figure out how to regulate it.
So what does that mean for investors? Any red flags to watch out for?
It's a bit of a gray area right now. Some countries are embracing crypto, others are being more cautious.
And we're still waiting to see what the new SEC leadership will do.
Exactly. The rules are constantly changing, and that creates uncertainty for investors.
So it's not just about understanding Bitcoin, it's about understanding the rules of the game. which seem to change all the time.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And it highlights the importance of diversification. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Spread your investments around. Stocks, bonds, real estate.
So a balanced portfolio is key, even if you're really into Bitcoin.
Absolutely. It's about managing risk and making sure your investments align with your goals.
That's good advice. But you gotta admit, there's something alluring about investing in something revolutionary, something that could disrupt the entire financial system.
Oh, definitely. That's part of what makes Bitcoin so fascinating. It's not just an investment. It's an idea, a movement, a challenge to the status quo.
And that brings us back to the bigger picture. The potential of blockchain to change the world. We've been so focused on Bitcoin, but it's just the tip of the iceberg, right?
It is. Blockchain has the potential to revolutionize so much more than just finance. It's already being used to create more transparent and secure systems in all sorts of industries, from supply chains to healthcare to voting.
Okay, so let's explore that a bit. What are some of the most exciting applications of blockchain happening right now?
Well, one area that's really taking off is supply chain management. Imagine being able to track every step of a product's journey, from the raw materials to the final delivery, all on a secure and transparent blockchain.
Wow. No more wondering where your package is, or if your coffee is really fair trade.
Exactly. That level of transparency can revolutionize industries where trust and accountability are really important.
Okay, what else?
Another exciting area is healthcare. Blockchain can be used to securely store and manage medical records, giving patients more control over their data, and making it easier for healthcare providers to share information.
So no more carrying around stacks of paper files, or waiting weeks for test results.
Exactly. Blockchain can create a more efficient and patient-centric healthcare system.
This is amazing. It feels like we're just scratching the surface of what blockchain can do. What are you most excited about?
Well, one that I find really fascinating is the potential for blockchain to transform voting. Imagine elections that are more secure, transparent, tamper-proof, thanks to blockchain.
Wow, that would be incredible. No more doubts about the integrity of the results.
Exactly. It's a powerful vision for a more democratic and accountable future.
All right, so we've gone from Bitcoin investing to the mind-blowing potential of blockchain. What are the key takeaways for our listener?
Well, first and foremost, remember that crypto is still relatively new. There are risks. Approach it with caution and skepticism.
Don't believe the hype.
Exactly. Do your own research. Understand the technology. Invest only what you can afford to lose.
And remember, it's not just about Bitcoin. The real revolution might be blockchain.
Precisely. Keep an eye on the bigger picture and explore how blockchain could impact your life.
That's great advice. But before we move on, we need to talk about the elephant in the room, the ethical considerations around cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, that's important. As with any powerful technology, there are potential downsides and ethical challenges.
Like what?
One major concern is the environmental impact of Bitcoin mining. The computational power it requires consumes a lot of energy, often from fossil fuels.
So there's a conflict between this revolutionary technology and our efforts to combat climate change.
There is, and it's something the crypto community is working on.
That's good to hear. What are some of the solutions?
Well, developers are exploring more energy-efficient mining methods, and some cryptocurrencies are designed to be less energy-intensive. There's also a growing movement towards renewable energy.
So making crypto more sustainable.
Exactly. And it's not just about the environment. There are also concerns about crypto being used for illegal stuff because of its anonymity.
The dark side of decentralization.
It is. It shows the need for regulations and law enforcement to prevent crypto from being used for illegal things.
Okay, so we've covered a lot. Bitcoin investing, the potential of blockchain, the ethical challenges.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind tour.
It has. But as we wrap up this part, I want to leave our listener with a question. We talked about Bitcoin disrupting the financial system, but what about its impact on society as a whole?
That's a really interesting question. If Bitcoin or another cryptocurrency became a truly global currency, it would have a huge impact on governments, businesses, individuals.
A paradigm shift, a world where money is no longer controlled by central banks, but by a decentralized network. Exciting and scary at the same time.
It is, and it's something we need to talk about. While the technology is still evolving, we need to think critically about the potential benefits and risks.
Well, we've given our listener a lot to think about. Bitcoin, decentralized finance. It's a lot to process.
It is, but it's worth it. The world of crypto is constantly changing. But one thing is clear. It has the power to change the world as we know it.
So where do we go from here? What should someone do if they want to learn more?
Stay curious. Keep reading and learning.
Don't be afraid to dive into those online forums, listen to podcasts, attend conferences.
And experiment. Start small. Try different platforms. See what works for you.
And remember, this is still a young and volatile space. There will be ups and downs.
But that's what makes it exciting. The future of crypto is still being written, and everyone can participate in shaping it.
That's a great point. Big thanks to our expert for this deep dive.
It's been my pleasure.
And to our listener. Thanks for joining us. Keep those questions coming and keep diving deep. It's a wild ride for sure. But that's kind of the point, right? This is uncharted territory. We're talking about a market that's basically the Wild West of finance. Big players making moves, price swings all over the place, not a lot of rules. It's exciting, but also kind of scary.
It is a bit of both. And it's important to remember, Bitcoin isn't like investing in a traditional stock. There are no earnings reports or dividends, no tangible assets backing it up. It's all about supply and demand and the psychology of the market.
Okay, so let's break down the psychological factors. You mentioned news and sentiment playing a big role. Can you give me some examples of how that impacts the price?
Absolutely. We saw it recently with Trump's reelection and all the speculation about his administration's crypto policies. Just the mention of a potential crypto czar sent the price soaring.
Right. That crypto czar thing really caught my attention. It feels like something out of a sci-fi movie, but it shows you how powerful even rumors and speculation can be in this market.
It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's not just political news that moves the needle. Positive coverage in the media, endorsements from celebrities, even just general buzz on social media can create a buying frenzy.
It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. People see the price going up, they get FOMO, they jump in, and that pushes the price up even further.
Exactly. And it works the other way around too. Negative news, regulatory crackdowns, security breaches, those can trigger panic selling and send the price plummeting.
So it's a roller coaster ride. And to make things even wilder, we have these analysts throwing out massive price predictions. It's hard to know what to believe.
It is. Remember, those predictions are just educated guesses. No one can predict the future, especially in a market as volatile and unpredictable as crypto.
So how does someone even approach investing in this kind of environment? It feels like you need a PhD in behavioral economics just to understand what's going on.
It's certainly not for everyone. But if you're considering dipping your toes into the crypto waters, it's crucial to do your research, understand the risks, and start small.
Okay, that sounds like reasonable advice. But how do you actually do your research on something like Bitcoin? Where do you even begin?
There are a lot of resources available online, but it's important to be discerning. There's also a lot of misinformation and hype out there. Start with reputable sources like industry publications, financial news websites, and educational platforms.
So basically, don't just trust what you see on Reddit or Twitter.
Exactly. It's also a good idea to follow the discussions happening within the crypto community. There are forums, blogs, and podcasts where you can learn from experienced investors and developers.
So it's about becoming part of the conversation, not just chasing headlines.
Precisely. And remember, investing in crypto is not just about buying and holding Bitcoin. There's a whole ecosystem of other cryptocurrencies, tokens, and platforms to explore.
Okay, so we've talked about the risks, the psychological factors, and the importance of research. But let's get back to the million-dollar question. Can Bitcoin really make you rich?
It's possible, but it's not a guaranteed path to riches. As with any investment, there's always the potential for both gains and losses. And with Bitcoin, potential for losses can be significant.
Right. We've established that it's a volatile market. But what about the people who got in early? Those who bought Bitcoin when it was just a few dollars? They must be laughing all the way to the bank.
Some of them are. But remember, even those early adopters had to hold on through multiple boom and bust cycles. There were times when Bitcoin lost over 80% of its value. Right. It takes a strong stomach and a long-term perspective to ride out those waves.
So it's not just about getting in early. It's about having the conviction to stay in, even when things get rough.
Exactly. And it's about understanding that Bitcoin is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's a long-term investment with its own unique set of risks and rewards.
Okay, so let's say someone has done their research, they understand the risks, and they're ready to take the plunge. What's the best way to actually invest in Bitcoin? Do you just open an account on some crypto exchange and start buying?
There are a few different approaches. You can buy Bitcoin directly on an exchange. You can invest in a Bitcoin ETF. Or you can even mine Bitcoin yourself. Each option has its own pros and cons.
Hold on, mining Bitcoin? That sounds pretty intense. Isn't that just for tech wizards with warehouses full of computers?
used to be more accessible to individuals, but with the increasing complexity of mining, it's become more of an industrial scale operation.
Okay, so probably not something our average listener is going to do in their basement. But what about those Bitcoin ETFs you mentioned? Are those a good option for beginners?
ETFs can be a good way to gain exposure to Bitcoin without having to manage the technical complexities of buying and storing it yourself.
So it's kind of like investing in a basket of Bitcoin rather than buying individual coins.
Exactly. And because ETFs are traded on traditional stock exchanges, they offer a more familiar and regulated environment for investors.
That sounds a lot less intimidating than navigating the world of crypto exchanges. But let's not forget about the other option, buying Bitcoin directly. What are the advantages and disadvantages of that approach?
Buying Bitcoin directly gives you more control over your investment. You own the actual coins, and you can choose how to store them.
That sounds like a good thing, but I imagine there's a but coming.
Of course. The downside is that you're responsible for securing your Bitcoin. If you lose your private keys or your wallet gets hacked, you can lose your entire investment.
So it's like holding physical gold. You need to keep it safe, or you risk losing it all. That sounds like a lot of responsibility.
It is. And it's one of the reasons why many people choose to invest through ETFs or other regulated platforms. They offer a layer of security that's not always available when you're managing your own Bitcoin.
Okay, so we've got three main options. Buy Bitcoin directly, invest in an ETF, or go full tech wizard and mine it yourself. But before anyone rushes out to make a decision, there's another important piece of the puzzle we haven't talked about, the regulatory landscape.
That's right. The world of crypto is still evolving, and governments around the world are grappling with how to regulate this new asset class.
So what does that mean for investors? Are there any red flags they should be aware of?
It's a bit of a gray area right now. Some countries have embraced crypto, while others are taking a more cautious approach.
And remember, we're still waiting to see how the new SEC leadership will impact crypto regulations in the US.
Exactly. The regulatory landscape is constantly shifting, and that creates uncertainty for investors. It's important to stay informed about any new developments that could affect your investments.
So it's not just about understanding Bitcoin itself, it's about understanding the rules of the game, which seem to be changing all the time.
That's a great way to put it. And it highlights the importance of diversification. Don't put all your eggs in the Bitcoin basket. Consider spreading your investments across different asset classes, including traditional stocks, bonds, and real estate.
So a balanced portfolio is key, even if you're bullish on Bitcoin.
Absolutely. It's about managing risk and ensuring that your investments align with your overall financial goals.
That's sound advice. But let's be honest, there's a certain allure to the idea of investing in something that's potentially revolutionary, something that could disrupt the entire financial system.
There is. And that's part of what makes Bitcoin so fascinating. It's not just an investment, it's an idea, a movement, a challenge to the status quo.
And that brings us back to the bigger picture, the potential of blockchain technology to change the world. We've been so focused on Bitcoin, but it's really just the tip of the iceberg, isn't it?
It is. Blockchain has the potential to revolutionize far more than just finance. It's already being used to create more transparent and secure systems in various industries, from supply chain management to healthcare to voting.
Okay, so let's shift gears and explore that for a bit. What are some of the most exciting applications of blockchain that are happening right now? Give me the stuff that's going to blow our listeners' mind.
One area that's really taking off is supply chain management. Imagine being able to track every step of a product's journey, from the raw materials to the final delivery, all on a secure and transparent blockchain. That's happening right now.
Wow, that's amazing. No more wondering where your package is or if the coffee you're drinking is really fair trade. You'd have a digital record of its entire history.
Exactly. And that level of transparency can revolutionize industries where trust and accountability are paramount.
Okay, what else? What other blockchain magic is happening out there?
Another exciting area is healthcare. Blockchain can be used to securely store and manage medical records, giving patients more control over their data and streamlining the sharing of information between healthcare providers.
So no more carrying around stacks of paper files or waiting weeks for your doctor to get your test results.
Exactly. Blockchain can help create a more efficient and patient-centric healthcare system.
This is incredible. It feels like we've only scratched the surface of what blockchain can do. What about you? What are some of the applications that you're most excited about?
One that I find particularly fascinating is the potential of blockchain to transform voting systems. Imagine a world where elections are more secure, transparent, and tamper-proof, thanks to blockchain technology.
That would be a game changer. No more hang-in chads or doubts about the integrity of the results.
Exactly. It's a powerful vision for a more democratic and accountable future.
Okay, so we've gone from the wild world of Bitcoin investing to the mind-blowing potential of blockchain to change everything. It feels like we've been on an epic journey. But as we wrap up this segment, I want to leave our listener with a thought-provoking question. We've talked about the potential for Bitcoin to disrupt the financial system, but what about its potential impact on society as a whole?
That's a fascinating question. If Bitcoin or another cryptocurrency were to become a truly global currency, it would have profound implications for governments, businesses, and individuals alike.
It would be a paradigm shift, a world where money is no longer controlled by central banks, but by a decentralized network. It's both exciting and a little bit scary, isn't it?
It is, and it's something we'll definitely be exploring further in our final segment. We'll delve into the potential impact of a decentralized financial system, discuss the potential for CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, and ponder what the future holds for Bitcoin in the world of finance.
So stay tuned, folks. We're about to enter the deep end of the pool. Okay, so we're back, ready to explore this world powered by crypto. You know, before the break, we were talking about Bitcoin maybe changing how we think about money entirely.
Yeah, it's a big idea. Right now, governments control the money supply. Central banks do their thing, and we all just go along with it. But with decentralized finance, DeFi, it's like flipping the whole system upside down.
So no more banks calling the shots. It's all about people sending money directly to each other on the blockchain.
Exactly. You can send money anywhere in the world instantly for practically nothing. No banks, no governments.
It's got to make governments nervous, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge. Some countries might try to ban crypto altogether. Others might try to create their own digital currencies.
Those central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, would those be real crypto, though?
That's a good question. Some people think CBDCs are just a way for governments to stay in control. They'd still be centralized, issued by the central bank. But they'd use a digital ledger, kind of a hybrid system.
Interesting. So what about the average person? How would all this affect our daily lives?
Well, you'd probably have a digital wallet linked to your identity, like a bank account, but on the blockchain.
So you'd be your own bank?
Kind of. You'd control your money, choose your own apps and services, be less reliant on traditional banks.
That sounds empowering, but also maybe a little confusing.
Yeah, that's the challenge. Right now, crypto is pretty complicated for most people. We need user-friendly interfaces and better education.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've talked about finance and governments, but what about the even bigger picture? Society, culture, how we interact with each other. Could crypto change all that?
It's definitely possible. Think about how the internet changed things. Communication, information sharing, communities. Crypto could do the same for how we exchange value, how we organize ourselves, how we trust each other.
It's like rewiring the whole system based on this idea of decentralized trust.
Right.
Wow. Okay, so we've covered a lot, from Bitcoin to DeFi to the potential impact on society as a whole. It's a lot to take in.
It is. But it's important to think about these things. The world of crypto is still evolving, and we have a chance to shape its future.
So what's next for someone who wants to learn more, maybe even get involved?
Stay curious. Keep learning. Experiment.
Don't be afraid to try things out.
There are tons of resources available.
Forums, podcasts, conferences.
It's a young and exciting space with a lot of potential.
Awesome. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Big thanks to our expert for this incredible deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
And to our listeners, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.